just dancing today.
You should, yeah.
I'm just playing. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce Show. Buenos dias. Buenos dias. Yes. I'm still sleeping though. I don't know why.
Wake up! There's a show. There's a camera on. You need to talk.
I just want to make sure if I'm black, white, or Latino today. What am I?
Oh.
But before we get started, let's welcome our other co-host, Mr. Christian Cano. Come on in. You're supposed to be walking and singing like mariachi.
La, 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 la.
With a deep voice,
I can lip sync. Bananas and watermelon, bananas and watermelon, bananas and watermelon. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Everyone looks a little tired. Yes.
Yes, we are.
I always look a little bit tired on a Wednesday morning. Yeah, I just...
You're the new Sleepy Joe.
Yeah, I'm Sleepy Jeff.
You're Sleepy Jeff. So watch out when your campaign, they're going to brand you Sleepy Jeff.
Sleepy,
That's
yeah.
right.
I'll never live that one down.
Welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce. Today is March the 4th, the day after the big Super Tuesday primary elections.
Super Martes.
Yes.
Super Martes.
A lot.
Those it is a super.
Super
Martes.
Yes. Yes.
Super Martes.
It was a very important night last night for those political junkies and those concerned or interested to see who's going to be our nominee as a Democrat, and we still don't know.
Anyway, Viva Mexico!
Girl, that's gonna be on some Trump campaign. She's not proud to be an American or something like that. Anyway, so today's March the 4th. I want to thank everyone for joining us, who is watching us on Facebook Live now, those who watch us later on YouTube and also on Facebook as well. We have a very special guest today. Jenny, we miss you. I saw her last night.
Yes, hi Jenny.
So
kisses and hugs for you.
Yes, so those who were curious, we will not be having a Wired and Tired after our show today because Jenny, tired.
She must have just slipped in and come back. I mean, she could have came in at 11:30.
Well, she was help organizing the Tara and Cade election party last night, so she had a lot going on. But it was great to see her last night. So let's, on a perfect cue, let's stop the Russian robot here. Alexa, stop. Too cheap to pay to not have commercials. All right, excellent. So thank you so much. So I didn't print a script today. We have lots of things we want to talk about. I know everyone. We want to introduce our guest here today. But before we do that,
did you bring any information about your stuff?
Well, not physically, but I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and introduce yourself. If you had a button, tell us who you are, the cause that you're concerned about. We'll start from the right because you're always right.
Oh Lord, this is every week. I'm probably getting y'all tired, but my button always that I do not take that off. It's gun sense, guys. We had another football player just shot and killed up in. What is it, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, somewhere up there.
Okay.
This is a college kid, and it's very Trevor is his name. Mm-hmm. And, we can't be losing all these young people for that. I'm Ruth Perez, community advocate for the city of Charlotte and Monroe and everywhere. And I'm happy to be the co-host here as well at Coffee and Pan Dulce.
Excellent. Thank you, Mama Ruth. And the man about town, we'll introduce.
El hombre del pueblo. And as such, I'm... trying to avoid coronavirus, so I'm improving my immunity by drinking hot tea and taking vitamin C. So that's just
is that what it works?
Just good free medical advice, preventative awareness, and making sure your immune system is very strong.
So we can drink Coronas with lemon, vitamin C.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm happy to be here. And my button is Libertarian Party. We had a presidential preference primary, which means it's a non-binding vote, but the no preference got about roughly 30% of the vote. So, but Jacob Hornberger, who was our guest here on Coffee Pan Dulce,
yes, that's right.
He came in first place. So
that's right.
He won the preference election.
Yeah.
That doesn't bind the delegates. So there may be other entrants to the race, and and there's several people on the list who actually dropped out already. So
excellent.
So
you'll have to explain that to us here after, so we can talk about how that works. Those who don't understand, because
Yes, I don't
it sounds like a beauty pageant where no one gets the prize. They just go, "You're pretty, you're pretty,
Yeah,
you're pretty."
You get a participation.
Yes,
trophy
exactly.
at the end.
Yeah, you're the best.
Yeah.
And we have a special guest here on our left. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Xavier. I am the Director of Operations for Pride Support Services of Charlotte. We are a new nonprofit organization that is supporting the LGBTQAI plus mental health.
Okay.
We provide support groups as well as individual therapy for the LGBT community. And we're very proud of the work we do. We have a great passion for this. And we are excited to start.
Excellent. This is going to be great to hear about, because when we Ruth had connected us with you, and she was invited your group here, and there was some misunderstanding on exactly what your group did. And I'm going to ask you a question after we introduce our co-sponsor, or our sponsor. Our Coffee and Pan Dulce sponsor, once again, is Manolo's Bakery. This is Manolo's Pan Dulce, the conchas, of course. There is some cinnamon bagels on the bottom, just in case you didn't want any. There's the...
I'm going to take one.
That's your favorite one.
Those are favorites, yeah.
Yes, and so Manolo's Bakery is on Central Avenue. Please remember to visit Manolo's Bakery for your tamales, tres leche, everything you need. It's
Churros.
Just churros. It is, once again, is made from immigrant hands here in Charlotte directly. So please help yourself. And we want to go ahead and salute to Coffee and Pan Dulce so we can get started.
Yep.
Ching,
Ching.
ching. Thank you. Listen, last night was a long night. It did not take long. Polls closed at 7:30, and in Virginia they closed at 7 o'clock. And at 7 o'clock and 30 seconds, they announced the winner. That was Joe Biden. So he won Virginia. Bernie came in second. That was a very close race because it was the fourth largest delegates to be given from last night. Joe Biden did very well in the Northern Virginia area. And so, as everyone starts to break down where everyone did well. And then North Carolina closed at 7:30. They immediately announced the winner was Joe Biden again. So he won that state. Texas took a little bit longer, and I think they did give that to Joe Biden. I didn't stay up that late. Or if I did, I don't remember. And then California, I think they're still waiting, and that one probably going to go to Bernie Sanders, and those are a lot of delegates. So
it's close.
Yeah, so Bernie did win Colorado, which has got a huge Latinx population growing there. Bernie won Vermont, and I forget another state.
Virginia, wasn't it?
No, it was some other state. So
Connecticut.
Yeah. So it's,
Vermont and Connecticut.
There's a lot of very interesting races to watch, but I think it highlighted really how diverse our party, as a Democrat, party is. And so, I'm sure we're going to be talking about this from now until whoever gets nominated. I know you love it because you like the dysfunction within our party, so they can all go and become libertarians or green people. But I do think we see early signs of almost exactly what happened with Hillary.
Correct.
In that the Hillary camp continued to demonize the Biden, the Bernie camp, as if though they're the dream. They're whatever, and they didn't win them over, and they need them to win to beat Trump. We need that base to beat Trump. The Biden group, we'll see what happens, but they cannot. Even if Biden gets a nomination, he cannot win without our our base supporting him.
Yep.
And so that's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks and as we move forward. So 30 seconds. Does anyone want to say anything about last night, or should we just leave it at that?
No, I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah.
Well, do you want me to talk a little bit about the preference primary?
In 30 seconds.
Yeah. Okay, a preference primary means that the candidate is not winning delegates.
Sure.
Delegates get to go to the convention, and they're not pledged to anybody based on the election results. So it's a primary, but you're just voting for a preference, and that's it. So
if I would have known that,
it's not binding. It's not binding.
Preference.
Well, the one thing, I forgot to say,
and both constitutionalists and libertarians expressed 30% of their voters did not have a preference on the candidates. Constitutionalists only had 2, but libertarians had 15 or 16, and so the vote totals were split up between,
So imagine if we had that kind of opportunity in the Democratic primary, if we were able to choose no preference at this time, I don't know if the Biden would have done so well. Because you have to choose.
That's right. You do.
Yeah.
You
Or
do
just not vote.
have to choose because it's a delegate system, right?
And that's
So-
what I liked about me being unaffiliated. I had the preference, no
Yes.
preference. Remember, I
Yeah.
questioned it. Of course, I did vote.
So
Yes.
with such high
So did I.
Did you?
with such high no preferences expressed by the voters, it's really an invitation to other candidates to come in, right? So so we can complain all we want about Bloomberg entering at such a late stage and spending and drowning everybody
Something
in
that
those Bloomberg
you just said
dollars.
Bloomberg.
So
You know.
one thing that we did not talk about was the big elephant in the room was Bloomberg did crappy last night.
Yeah.
He spent all that money. He bought the mayor some new coloring for her hair.
Yeah.
He bought some of our Latinx leaders to work on his campaign. They tried to convince all of us, that he was the best for us, and this.
He even fed the homeless.
Yes, he fed the homeless, and he did. It was he is committed. One of the great, I would have to give him credit because he's committed. Regardless of what happens, he's going to continue to keep his offices open and But I do think that it was. I think people saw it for what it was, and he was trying to buy votes.
Yeah. You know what his big mistake was, in my opinion?
Yeah.
He didn't hire Russians.
No comment.
Well, not yet.
There's still time. He could get
that's
so
right.
much more value for his
could.
money if he could just figure out those Russian meme makers and troll factories and get out there and push out the memes and convince everybody to vote for him. He wouldn't have to spend all those millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Well, I think it highlighted how, once again, disconnected our mayor of Charlotte is. The fact that she endorsed him and her own community voted heavily Biden.
Yeah.
And so she has continued. I don't know who advises her. I don't know if Julie Iso advises her or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just like she continues to get it wrong.
Yeah.
And so, but, I'm glad that some people have a job until November because really he's paying them until November. So
well, wait a second. Just to be fair to Lyles, right? Because if she's backing the person that she thinks is best, rather than the person who won, that's totally okay with me, and should be okay with most voters. If she's really making a principled stand, saying I think he's the best for the job, this candidate's best for the job, even if that candidate loses. Because if she had come out for Sanders, you'd say, well, she came out for Sanders and that was great, but he lost.
What I would really have preferred her to do, and maybe the mayor of DC and the mayor of Houston, is just not get involved. Is let the party determine who they want, because right now she represents the entire city.
Yeah.
And so to not get involved and let people decide, she can support someone privately at home and tell her neighbors, but to not get involved in the primary, and then once that person is decided, then decide whether she's going to get behind it. But try to tip the scale in advance, I think is unfortunate because it. Anyway, so I think it's unfortunate.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to stop about that. So let's talk about your group once again, and admittedly there was some concern when we originally had heard about your group because we didn't do our due diligence. We just heard the name of the group, and I think we saw the website and it said something about counseling or something to LGBT community, and there were some of us who actually thought maybe it was and admittedly, it was because Ruth is the one who brought this to our attention, and
I have tough skin. Just
no. We thought it was a Pray the Gay Away group.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you know what that means. And so we were a little concerned, or some of us were a little concerned, and I was like, well, let them come on if they can convert me. Let's just. I want to see the exorcism happen on camera. It'd be great for ratings. And Jeff was like, your head won't turn all the way around. So tell us, So tell us what your group, and we want to thank everyone who's joining us. Tully, Raymond, the Pride Services of Charlotte, Carlos is also joining us. I'm sure Brother Philip from Texas will be joining us here soon.
Oh, yeah. Tally. Who's Tully?
Tully, morning.
Good morning, anyways, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So tell us what your group does, and is it a pray?
It's not a Pray the Gay Away.
It's not a Pray the Gay Away.
Darn, I thought I was going to happen today.
And I want to clarify.
We have our special effects already to go.
All right.
Yes, it is not.
Okay.
Capital N-O-T,
Okay.
Pray the Gay Away.
Okay, all right.
Listen, everyone, can you repeat that again?
Capital N-O-T, not a Pray the Gay Away group.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
I think I understand.
To the contrary, Pride Support Services of Charlotte was founded by two Latino gay men, Ray Castillo. Shout out Ray. Myself. Ray is our CEO and founder. I am the director of operations. Like I said, all of the executive team is gay. Our board members are very diverse. We have gay men, transgender, a transgender woman. We have an ally, straight ally. We have a queer woman. And we just have this passion. Ray and I met about a month and a half ago. We were both from Puerto Rico, and we met through a friend of his, and it was basically love at first sight. You know, we sat down to have coffee one day, and he told me about this dream he had, and I said, okay, let's do it. What do we need to do? And it started from there, and it's the support that we have gotten from the community, the support that we have gotten from everyone has been just amazing. It's been actually overwhelming.
Sure.
But it's
now,
been awesome.
In parentheses, for those that don't know Ray Castillo, Raymond, I known him for I think a little bit over a year.
Okay.
In the meantime, while he had that big dream, he was also studying.
Yes, we are.
He was preparing himself.
Ray and I are basically working. Well, Ray and I and the executive team in general, but especially Ray and I, we're giving like about 80 hours a week. We both have our full-time jobs. Okay. Ray is still finishing his master's in marriage and family therapy and working as well. I work my full-time job. And then we leave our job and go straight at it, and we don't stop. Like I said, the support that we've gotten from the community in general has been so great that we feel if we stop now, we're not gonna be able to do it, and we just have to roll with the punches.
So what do y'all actually do? I mean, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, what are the services that you're actually offering?
So we provide support groups for all of the LGBT community. We actually started with a gay men's group. And then we noticed that we had a lot of people who were not necessarily gay men that wanted to know about us and come to the groups and see what we were about. So right now, every other Sunday, so 2 Sundays a month, we're doing a gay men's group. Okay. And then the other 2 Sundays of the month, we're doing an open group for all of the LGBT community in general. So our purpose is not only to provide the support in the mental health aspect, but also to unite. To unite our community. We have found that, within our community, there's still some disjointment, and there's still a little bit of oh, well, he's a trans, or she's a trans, or he's gay, and she's a lesbian, and we want to bring all of our community together. I think as we stand together, we become stronger. Sure. Our purpose and what Ray and I, when Ray and I founded the Pride Support Services, it was about empowerment. It's empowering our community to be the best and healthiest versions of themselves, whoever they are, wherever they come from. And that's our purpose, that's our passion, that's what we want to do with this organization, is to be able to bring the entire community together and walk with pride and walk, feeling fulfilled and feeling empowered to being ourselves and not having to hide from anybody.
So question, I assume the reason y'all decided to get this group together, organization together, is it's not currently there? Was this a whole gap in in Charlotte? Because at one time, about 6 years ago, there was this effort to make a LGBT community center, and I think it actually was up for about a year, and then there was just not a lot of funding, and it went down. And I think they were offering HIV testing. They were, a bunch of services, so to speak. And so we don't really have anything like that in Charlotte, which is unusual because we're such a big city.
Yes.
I mean, we do have the Pride, Charlotte Pride, the Pride group, and they fund certain things like Time Out Youth,
yes,
some other events or whatever. This is not part of that. This is a separate group.
We are a separate nonprofit organization. Actually,
the reason I'm asking that question was because I don't know how long y'all been in Charlotte, but just to let you know, in Charlotte there is the establishment, and then there's everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And if that establishment ever feels like you're leaving them out, or you're stepping on their toes, or you're taking credit for something, they will do everything they can to badmouth you and to prevent you from servicing, because it becomes about them. And that's unfortunately, there's probably in any city where you have the establishment, whatever. You probably haven't experienced that yet, so this is kind of a free heads up. So are you getting support from them, or do they not know about you, or?
Well, we are getting the word out there. We are starting to establish those partnerships. We have not gotten any pushback yet, and honestly, there are individual providers that provide services to the LGBT community. But in general, what we are trying to accomplish, it's not. There's nothing like it in Charlotte.
Okay.
There are actually, to get a little statistical here, there are over 300,000 LGBTQ individuals in North Carolina. 90,000 of those live in Charlotte.
Wow.
So it is much needed. We are trying to create a safe environment for all of the LGBTQ community, where they can come and be themselves and get the support that they need, whether it be individual therapy, support groups,
protection,
family and marriage therapy, anything that they need. Our vision is that eventually we will be able to be not only the leading mental health provider for our community, but we can also provide other support services like hormone replacement therapy for transgender community, that we can get these people connected to PrEP, that we can get these people connected to HIV testing. So we want to make sure our community is not only healthy mentally, but also physically as well.
So what does success look like for a group like that? Because it sounds like you're just trying to increase the scope of the network, bring more people in, make sure there's referrals, like a Yellow Pages. You're just trying to make sure everybody can know what's available to them.
Yes.
You're being the connecting point.
Yeah. So what does success look like to you? I mean, a year from now, how are you gonna judge what you've done?
Well, a year from now, we really want to be doing this full time, me and Ray, for one. So if within a year we really want to be full time in the organization. And then the other part is that we will be able to have a safe space. Right now we are using the Latin American Coalition. They are providing us a free space to host these, to host our groups.
That's a good thing.
I didn't want to tell y'all, I wanted them to tell y'all.
No, that's great. That's great.
The Latin American Coalition is providing a free space for us to use for our groups. So within a year, actually within 6 months, our hope is that we have our own space where we can actually start, full-blown individual therapies and continue our support groups and expand our support groups.
This is really exciting for me to hear all of this. I mean, I'm glad. Thank you for reaching out and inviting the group here, and I do wish Jenny would have been here because she can ask questions that I think are important from her lens.
Because she's more she involved.
But one of the things I think is very interesting, as you were talking, I was just looking at the results of County Commission election from last night. I believe Ella Scarborough came in first with the most votes. Pat Coffin came in second. Lee Altman came in a distant third, but she's third. And barely missing was Ray McKinnon. Ray McKinnon missed. And this is the reason this is important. If you go 2 more down, Tara Long, who I supported and some of us supported, and Tara was the only person running for a county commission. Maybe Tigris was as well. I'm not really sure, but that was talking about mental health, health health. Our county commission funds those things here in Charlotte, mental health. That it's in their budget, and none of them were talking about mental health. So when you said the statistic, there are 90,000 LGBTQIA people in this area, had just 10,000 of them voted, Tara would have been on the board, and she would have been able to be an advocate. So hopefully the top three, Ella, Pat, and Lee, y'all can meet with them because they still have to get elected in November, even though they're pretty much in because there's no Republicans on the ballot. To express to them the importance of funding at the county level because it's very, very important.
Of course.
Another thing I thought of quickly. So for our, we started this show for many reasons, but one of them is to educate people who maybe watch this late at night on YouTube or Facebook, and if you are a young Latino or Latinx individual who may be, I don't want to say the word questioning. I got to be careful how I word things. You are looking for some advice or some direction. I don't know if I'm wording this properly. Is that a person that can come to your group and maybe get some clarity? Because they may not have that support in their home. And we talk about that very briefly before the show about the Latinx community. Has not always been supportive of members of their family when they come out.
Being Latinos, I mean, what I've learned and in my experience, when I think we all go through it. Everyone, and I've been telling a lot of teenagers that, and it's normal. And you start questioning who you really are. I mean, are you bi? Are you this? Are you straight? What do you feel? Because you meet a lot of people, a lot of teens, and they're in that curiosity. Our families, they have this as a taboo. They will not speak to you about it. They don't tell you your body's going to start changing. You're going to start feeling this. You're going to start feeling when you see a guy or when you see a girl or, your body want to feel a kiss, whatever. They don't tell you none of that.
Girls can't even say they have their period out loud.
No. So that rejection starts from home. So then that's when we have, I call them incubators, gays or lesbians behind the doors, not in a closet.
Incubators,
thank you. Thanks. Have them, behind the doors without speaking to no one. And they don't know there's mental health. They don't know there's therapists. They don't know who can help them define who they really are.
Exactly.
So are we open to provide those kind of help?
Yes, definitely. And
what are the age ranges?
That's 18 and over.
Okay.
Until unless you're not in your deathbed, you're more than welcome to come. And even if we have to go to you, we will. So yeah, and to bring precisely that, our topic on Sunday was precisely the queer umbrella. And as a gay man, they teach us in the community that is a bad word. The word queer is a bad word, but in definition, queer is, something odd, something out of the norm, something weird. And we were discussing in group that, we are all under that umbrella. Whether you're lesbian, gay, or bisexual, we're under that umbrella and we're all queer in essence. And being weird and being different is not bad. It's a good thing. We need to embrace our individuality.
So I am in the right place.
And that's the type of environment that we want to create for our community. It's okay to feel different. It's okay to be different. As long as you are yourself and you are proud of who you are and you are empowered to be the person you want to be, that's what we want. And to kind of give, if I may give a little bit of a brief background on myself. I was married. I have a 6-year-old son. And it was very difficult for me because I didn't grow up in a household where I couldn't be myself, but still society made me stay in the closet. And I married my best friend. We were best friends in high school. I still feel a lot of love for her. And then when I decided to be truthful to myself and be truthful to her. Yes, it was really hard, but as I always say to everyone I meet, it gave me a new sense of power and empowerment over myself. And I am so unapologetic about who I am.
Yep.
I am the individual that I am, and I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud of my accomplishments. And that's the passion that drives me and Raymond to give our community that sense of empowerment. And it's very, we feel humbled and we feel very proud of the work we're doing.
Well, I think this work is so important,
Especially
not
at
only
this
in
time.
Charlotte, but specifically in our Latinx community, because there's just not a lot of outreach or mental health. First of all, there's not a lot of mental health help in Charlotte.
Just help resources, they're done.
Unless you are part of the privileged class.
Part of the South Charlotte area, especially Old Providence.
Well, a lot of people don't have access to mental health.
To mental health.
Some people don't have a pastor they can talk to, or some people don't have a wise aunt or a wise Theo to talk to, or maybe it is taboo in that family.
And you
to
know
just
what,
not
actually?
talk about it. Because in my family,
The Latinos take it as a fun joke, as a,
exactly.
oh, transvestis.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I'm saying?
Or it's okay if it's the neighbor's kid, but,
But
it's not-
it's not me.
And actually, in my family,
Not even the neighbor.
before I came out to my family, no, it was, I don't mind, just don't be a sissy. So there was really this stereotype that you had to be a
Are you
certain.
gonna start dressing like a woman now?
Yes, exactly. And of course, I was like, well, I don't know, what does it look like? No,
And that's the mentality. 'cause they think, that's the mentality because they think
Yes.
once you come out and say, "Hey,
You're less than.
I'm a gay," they start picturing you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, they start putting drags on you,
Yeah.
making you feel like, okay, so now you're gonna be walking. I had a guy, but now you're gonna be walking as a woman. You're gonna dress up as a girl.
Yeah.
You don't need to dress up, and that's what a lot of our adults need to be educated.
Yeah,
What's the
exactly.
real meaning
Exactly.
of how the person feels?
Exactly. And not only the Latino community,
Yes.
you know, the African American community, we see that with most Caucasian conservative families, we see that as well. And we want, part of what we want to do, and this is where Ray comes in, is reunite those families. We want to make sure that we bring them in for that family counseling, that they understand that, you know, this is who your child is. And the fact that your child is the way that he or she is does not play necessarily a role on who they're going to be.
Yeah.
One thing is how they identify, and another very different thing is what their accomplishments might be.
Sure.
And we want to break, it's like right now, again, statistically, LGBTQAI individuals are 3 times more likely to suffer from a mental health condition. They are 2.5% more likely to be suicidal.
Yeah,
and it just
exactly.
comes from the pressure of society that wants us to mold to what the society standards are. And no, we don't have to mold. That's why we're queer.
I just saw a documentary, Something for Gabriel, on Netflix, and it was a young boy who was tortured. They tortured him because he was, the mother had the child, and she didn't want the child, so she gave him to her brother, who was in a same-sex marriage, and then they took the child away at 4 years old, and because they were, the 2 men raised him, and he said he loved them, the child, they assumed that he was turning gay, so there was some kind of like, they were afraid he was going to be gay, so they tortured him.
The Alexa situation in Puerto Rico. I don't know if
exactly.
It was horrible. It was a horrible situation. I don't think any one individual, I don't care if you're lesbian, gay, straight, bisexual, I don't care who you are. I don't think any individual should have to go through that. I don't think a person should die alone.
Yes.
I don't think a person should die without support. I don't think a person should die without being told they're loved.
Exactly.
And that is the sole purpose of why Pride Support Services of Charlotte exists. Because we want all, it doesn't matter. That's why we LGBTQAI, it doesn't matter if you're ally, intersexual, asexual, queer, questioning.
I was going to ask you that. What are the, I know the LBG.
It's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, or transgender, queer, questioning, asexual, ally, intersexual.
All right, you do
See,
know.
that-
You
you
do
do
know.
the math.
You do know, and I don't mean to be offensive, but you do know that there are people that will say LGBTQIA, LMNOP. How many letters do you need?
Yeah.
Would it be easier just to keep it to LGBT, or what's the purpose of? I've never asked. I was curious what because it is confusing to people because it is
just from a marketing.
Yes, no, really. It's like I don't know how many letters there are now. And I don't mean to make lightly, but I'm
LGBTQ. Well, LGB actually grabs the entire scope of the community.
Okay.
Because you can be a transgender that is a lesbian, and you can be a transgender that's gay, and you can be a transgender that's bisexual. The reason they have added so many letters to that acronym is because, as our flag says, we are all inclusive, and we want everyone to be represented. Obviously, when you go into different organizations, we try to keep it short, and we try to keep LGBTQ, which represents the majority of the community, but we also want to include everyone, and we want to include the entire scope of people that don't necessarily identify as LGBTQ, the asexual people, the intersexual people. We want to include our allies.
Asexual is like
people who have no preference for sex at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you're male, female, they just don't have any preference for sex, period.
So that shouldn't be bisexual?
No, because they're not interested in the act of sex. Not necessarily the individual itself. So
they just
but educate me.
No. That's
okay. So like for example, a bisexual individual.
Like,
I'm sorry.
A bisexual is like me being a woman, and I might like another woman or another guy. That's what I understand.
So asexual is if you're just not interested in sex.
In sex, period.
So you're my friend, I just don't want to have sex.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's like the best friend you can have.
Okay.
I mean.
Or so I've been an agent.
Or that. Now, that's different from being celibate. Celibate means you just don't have sex because of.
So that means I've been that A friend. Yeah. I've had so many lesbians and gay friends that.
Or they don't.
My love is for them.
Asexual individuals don't identify with a specific sex either.
Gotcha.
You know, and then you have your pansexual individuals who are similar to the bisexual individuals, but pansexual individuals go beyond just the male-female stereotype, and they can actually be attracted to the individual themselves, regardless of if they're gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender.
There is a documentary on Netflix called Transgender Nation, I think, or maybe on Hulu or whatever, and they explain this. It is very clinical. It is very confusing. So I do hope that we realize how confusing this is.
There is a show on Netflix called Transgender.
Yeah, they're
transparent.
Transgender.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I try to watch these because even myself, I get confused on the terms, what cis means, those kind of terms.
Everything that has come out, newly.
Yeah. And who decides these?
Just the community itself.
Okay, well, I decide we're just going to be...
LGBT and that's it.
So the individual groups, you know, the LGBT pride committees and these big organizations that ensure that inclusivity is there, are usually the ones that you know, just make these terms available to the entire population.
Because someone asked me yesterday when I was poll greeting for a certain candidate, and they were asking me about certain things, and I said the Latinx vote is it's the largest. It's now the largest voting block in America. The Latinx vote, minority vote, and they said, where did Latinx come from, or who decided? I don't know.
I've heard something about that, about the Latinx.
The reason we say Latinx is it's gender neutral, right? So it is not Latino, Latina, it's Latinx.
Well, the problem is we have a word for that. It's called Hispanic.
Right? Yes.
Right, and that's gender neutral too, right?
Yes,
And
but
so,
I don't
and
know.
so there's some languages.
There's
and
people that
countries,
feel
right?
offended.
Yeah, well, there are some countries that take pride in their language and they want to keep it a little clean, and so they want to wait until stuff gets more generally accepted. So there's a process for.
Yeah.
Well, see, on that, our
for
country,
neologisms.
but we're here, and
Yeah.
so we want to make sure that everyone has their voice.
Exactly.
And
I
got
feel,
no problem with it.
yeah, and I don't either, but I do feel sometimes that Hispanic, it sounds better than Latinx, because it's like me calling someone something that they don't want to be called.
But to be clear on the difference.
Yeah.
Hispanic people, it comes from the word hispanoparlante, which means that we speak Spanish.
Yes.
And we have to understand that not all Latinos speak Spanish.
They could speak Portuguese.
They could speak
Speak
Portuguese.
French. They could speak whatever.
So
exactly.
But see, it's like saying people. People
they can
in
speak Cuban,
in
which is a
English,
different language.
people doesn't, the word people, it doesn't describe male or female.
Exactly.
It's people.
But,
so Latinos in America,
Yeah.
in Latin America, it's Latinos. It could be male and female. So why la gente? So why should we have to add on a Latinx?
Because we can.
Because we want to and we can.
It's for marketing. It's for hashtags.
Yeah.
It's for. There's a new form of communication. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's called Twitter, right? And it's all about
Twitter.
Hashtags.
Isn't that?
Oh, that's twat.
As we move into a generation that is more conscious of and more sensitive to the individualities, and it's more sensitive and more open to the idea that there are different people out there, we want to make that shift towards using more inclusive terminology.
Yes.
And I know for us probably sitting here in this table who are all over 30, it's kind of like confusing, but
we are.
It's a little confusing to us because we come from a different generation. But the new generation who are potentially going to be our future professionals, they're moving towards that.
So you're telling me that the new generation is actually changing words in the dictionary and adding words to the dictionary.
Not necessarily adding words to the dictionary. We're just changing the paradigm.
¿Cómo se dice old lady in Spanish?
Vieja.
Vieja. Listen.
And see, Mexico, vieja is like my woman.
Okay, well, she is a get off my grass Latinx woman.
I respect the Latinx. I don't utilize it because I feel that I'm not respecting others' rights either. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I want just the way LGBT and that group wants respect from me. I want them to respect me as well.
So you want to be called what? Hispanic?
Just
whatever.
Hispanic, Latino, whatever.
Well, see, and my stance on that is always you can call me anything you want as long as you don't touch me.
And that's.
I've been called every name in the book.
That's what I'm saying, but I mean, I'm talking, I'm not talking just personally for me, but I mean, I hear, because we're here as co-hosts, and we hear a lot of comments down there. So they question a lot. We want to open the door to have everyone to have equality, but we also want to make sure that equality respects everyone's point of view as well.
Which is difficult
So it's very hard, yes.
Our community, our Latinx community, is so diverse, and as a token Latino here, he knows.
I mean, I've read Latinos that are very supportive, and they also mention and they say, I feel offended. A Puerto Rican leader here, Miss Pat Martinez, she felt offended by her being called Latinx. And I'm like, that is right. I mean, why should we kind of cover up or put a drape over her if she has not?
What does she want to be called?
We're just Latinos.
Okay.
We're just Latinos in
but
America.
Latinos is more the masculine.
I know. But
no, it's like calling people.
Xavier's got the right attitude on this, right?
That's awesome.
He's it's like, I've been called a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, if people get offended,
Yeah.
you know, big deal. I'm not. Why should I be so
Exactly.
sensitive to
Exactly.
people getting offended
Exactly.
about
Well,
stuff? I mean, I'm not in there.
I think
You know.
in order for us to change, in order for us to actually say that we are being inclusive,
Sure.
we have to start by doing a deep introspection and really looking into, okay, so why am I offended by this?
Yes.
Is it important? Is it going to change my life?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, we're not on. Yeah, we don't have no FCC
So I
license.
have.
We don't even have a business license.
So-
Yeah, look, go ahead. And what
I have a friend that says if you don't fuck me, cheating, or finance me,
We got
it's not important. It's not not important. It's like if it's not really playing an important role in my life.
Me growing up in
get
Texas,
Yeah.
I got so bombarded. I mean, not myself, but I would see people around calling, because we lived in the border, so people will, come in the railroad trucks and just jump out, and they will call them wetback.
Well, this is what's.
You know what I'm saying?
Ruth,
so I grew up,
Ruth,
and that really bothers me.
But Ruth, this is the reason I think Latinx has resonated with many young people. Hispanic is a term that was given to us by white people. Chicanos gave themselves the word Chicanos. Tejanos gave them the word Chicano. Latinx is a word we've given ourselves, not someone else has given us that name.
It's like Charlottean or North Carolinians.
Yes, but so I do think that there are maybe a lot of young people that have said, this is a term I want you to call me this.
Exactly.
Not for you to decide what to call me. I want you to call me. And I've talked about this all the time. When someone tells you what they feel and what they want, don't disregard what they say.
Correct.
And that's, I think, many times when, and I've started this with women, for example. When women are telling you, you're offending me, and you say, no, I'm not, it's just a joke, then you don't understand. You're minimizing. Yeah. When I'm telling you, I see racism, and you're saying, no, that's not what you see.
Oh, bless your heart, darling.
Exactly. And so, and in Charlotte, specifically in North Carolina, we have it, or some people have a tendency to, when people are telling you a certain thing, and we tell them, no, that's really not what's happening, whatever, you're deminimizing their thing. And so things like Latinx is empowering for some people. Before we move on, I do want to say that, listen, I think your group is very much needed, and I'm so glad that you're here. I think of all the young, it's difficult for us to understand the growth of the Latinx population here in Charlotte, specifically the young Latinos. Just look at the enrollment of CMS schools and the percentages.
Overpopulated.
And it was so appealing. Every time I go to Manolo's Bakery, I take Sharon Road or whatever there, and there's always a bus that stops at this corner, and it's like a clown car where all these kids get out from school, and it's all Latinx. That is the future, and I think to myself, one of those young people could go through a time in their life where they do not have the support at home for whatever reason. And to have a group that they can say, whether it's social media or something, they can get that support, could save their lives.
Exactly.
And that is very important.
Like what happened with Alexa again. Alexa was abandoned by her family.
And that's what I was thinking right now when you were saying this. There's a group called Alianza in Charlotte. And y'all might want to get together with them because they're drug, alcohol prevention.
Yes.
But of course, you got to understand some of these teenagers, they start to go into getting bad habits or get into drugs and get depressed and stuff because the way they feel. So if y'all kind of help each other and kind of, talk to them, that would really work.
Definitely.
Well, listen, we are probably down to, we started a little late, about 10 more minutes left. Do you have anything else you want to add about your group or some things maybe coming up or how can they reach out to you?
Yes, we actually have our gay men's group coming up March the 8th, which is this coming Sunday. We have our open group the following Sunday, the 15th. So I welcome everybody to come and join us. Please like us on Facebook, Pride Support Services of Charlotte. Look us up on Facebook. Hit that like button. We will post all of our activities there. A huge shout out to all of my executive team, Ray, Chris, Scott, Ronnie. I love you, babe. Just thank you for all the support to all of our board members. Thank you so much for believing in us. Thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to come here and
love
talk
to
The
have
about
Land
ourselves.
Coalition will be hosting y'all a space every Sunday. Is that when y'all are meeting? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, the Latin American Coalition is allowing us to use
So
their
that way
space.
they can know
Yes,
it's 44
yes.
Are y'all going to ask for? Are you getting any funding from Pride?
Not yet.
Okay,
We
you
are
have to apply.
actually in the process of
Okay.
filing for a 501c3.
Well, listen, I know
So-
a lot. I know a lot of the people, and actually, Jenny's very involved in Charlotte Pride, and I do think that this would be a good cause for Charlotte Pride to allocate some of their funds. It's very, very important,
Yes.
and especially if they don't make it about them, if they make it about helping the community. I do think this is one of those reasons that I support Charlotte Pride, is because that money goes to such great groups, and it's not just about the musical act or the parade. It's about actually helping the groups that are there.
How are your meetings?
So
gonna
if
be
y'all
conducted?
if y'all march in Pride, I'd love to march with y'all.
Oh, thank you.
So just
Yes.
to let
Oh,
you know,
yeah, that's
so,
coming
all right,
up.
because I need somebody to march with.
How are y'all conducting your programs into the bilingually or Spanish speaking community? We have a few.
Well, right now
Yes.
we're targeting the entire community as a whole. But yes, like I said, me and Ray are both bilingual. And eventually, as the groups grow, our intention is to kind of divide and conquer.
So
And be
Spanish speaking people that don't speak any English and they're willing to come and hear from y'all. Are they welcome this coming
Yes.
Sunday for the men's group and next on the 15th?
Excellent.
Great.
Todo el mundo.
And
Todo el
so
mundo
not
es
just
bienvenido.
LGBT members, but maybe even their parents. Can they? That would
Well,
be
he
an
said
open.
allies and
Okay.
people,
Yeah.
families,
Maybe,
unite them
maybe a parent who
to
is
understand.
wanting to understand
Of
maybe a
course.
nephew or so. That's that's almost in the line of PFLAG, right? PFLAG does things like
Yes,
that.
PFLAG does
Okay.
support groups and peer support services.
Sure.
Oh,
to
your CEO, I know it's one of your CEOs down there. Hi Raymond. They're saying we invite you to open table session.
Okay.
Open for everyone.
Push
For
that
everyone.
link.
And then you push that link and that's where you can get registered. So share it, everyone.
Hey,
Yes.
Mr. Libertarian, do you have any questions before we move on to our
Mr.
constitutional quote of the
Libertarian.
week?
I don't want to be called that.
Well,
Libertarian X.
I became a libertarian in the 70s, and part of it was due
So
to
you've been libertarian for your entire life?
and part of it was due to the fact that in the 70s there was a big
The hippies.
movement to
The peace and
come
love.
out, to find people's true
Sure.
identity. And I want to point out that 4 or 5 years ago, the first openly gay presidential candidate
I was gonna talk about that.
was not Pete Buttigieg.
It wasn't Pete
No.
Booster
It was,
Chair.
it was John Hoskers
Yes.
of the Libertarian Party in 1972.
Oh, wow.
Interesting
Oh,
how
wow.
we try to write. I did not know that.
Yeah,
And-
so there you go, and this was a very big part. This is one of the I call it. It depends on where I am and what I'm talking about, but it's the self-actualization. Like, who am I actually, right? And so there was a lot of that going on in the 70s, and it was women, it was African Americans, it was gay people, it was peace activists. It's like, what are we doing here? So a lot of that self-reflection, which led to this, statement of principles, which eventually became
Hey, Kay! Hi, Philip!
Hey, Phil.
the Libertarian Party. So
Well, listen, speaking of that, I do want to say the reason I'm wearing this shirt today was because more than ever, we need Tom Steyer.
Yes.
How we segue into this. In order for us to move forward and be, in my view, the most corrupt and dangerous president we've ever had in our lifetime, and I know if we have
George W. Bush?
Yes, George W. Bush, exactly. In order for us to, our progressive wing of our party and our more moderate wing of our party, which currently is being represented by Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, are going to have to come together somehow. That the mission's going to have to be not me, us, which is Bernie's thing, but it really is going to have to be that. And that's going to take a lot of diplomatic work. I think Tom Steyers is the type of person that can meet with both groups and bring them together. I think he has the relationship in California with a lot of the progressives, plus he's considered more of a moderate. He's the only candidate that was running at the time that did not disparage people who supported Bernie Sanders, didn't call us, socialist or whatever. He just said that I just don't agree with that's the way you do it. So I do hope Tom Stiers and some of his followers and people on his staff actually watch us. And I do hope that you help our party by trying to talk with each other, because I do think that he can play an important role. I do hope Elizabeth Warren pulls out, so that way, that's why I kept the sticker up there. But also, I did want to say that I thought it very interesting yesterday that there was a young person who was just graduated from college in New York, and she was campaigning for one of the persons who was running for county commission. She was at my polling place. She was a young lady. There was a young man who had just voted for, it was his first election to vote for. He lives in our neighborhood. And he walked and he voted, and he came out, and I was holding the signs of people I was supporting, and he went out to his car. I guess he went home, and he had made a Bernie sign, a handmade Bernie sign. And this is, it's almost emotional. He stood up, he said, y'all mind if I stand with y'all? I was so proud that he, at 18 years old, was doing that. And he just stood there, just like this. And a lot of our neighbors, they know him because he skateboards, and they said, hey, how are you, Jack? You know, I don't know if they said. Anyway, they were saying hi. This lady, I don't know if she was Republican or Democrat, she came to vote, and she said, I'm voting, but these kids, she almost said, like, these crazy kids, you know,
kids these days.
Yeah, it was like one of those, you know, these kids don't know what they're doing, or this is. In a time where we're trying to get young people involved, that's not the time to tell them.
Exactly.
I mean, what you're saying is you don't know what you're saying.
I agree. The fact that young people are involved in their own world and social media and whatever it is, skateboarding, whatever it is these wild kids do these days. I mean, the fact that they occasionally, from time to time, they're like a clam, right? They open up, and you don't have that much time when they're curious. You can just see it, you know it's there, and that's the time to leap in and say, let's talk about these things. Let's talk about socialism in the world. Let's talk about what we have in common. But that's a great opportunity.
But the interesting thing, the reason they were, not only one of them was supporting Bernie, the other lady, I don't know who she was supporting, but the reason that they told me was not because of socialism, getting rid of it. It was just because he was speaking to something that was interesting to them. So I turned to him and I said, I'm sorry that they said that. Does that offend you? I was so proud. He said, I don't care. And I was like, you right, you go, young people. And so I was nervous a little bit, and I asked her, because that lady's husband came up to me, and I had a sticker that said trust women.
Oh yeah, I read that. Yeah.
And she came up to me, and he came up to me and said, well, I have a problem with trusting women. And at first I thought he was joking. But he was being serious. He said, I don't want a woman. I was like, this is, all women were sitting there pole green. I was like, this is not, and she almost like took her earrings off and started, whatever. And then he walked off, and I said, I'm sorry. And I said, we still have people like that. But I was so proud of those young people that did that. And I want you to continue to get involved. There's still a lot more time. Even if you support Donald Trump, get involved in your community.
Make the change.
Get involved. So I don't care who.
Change starts with you.
That's right. But if you got a conservative that says something like that, there's only one thing you need to say.
Yes.
Margaret Thatcher.
Good point. Or bless your heart.
Because they love Margaret Thatcher.
Yes, that's right. So, go ahead.
I'm sorry, if I may.
Please.
One more shout out.
Yes.
Sure.
To my son, Cesar. I love you in California. He's probably going to school right now. His mom, Paula, I love you too. And my best friend, Nilka, watching us right now.
Awesome.
So
those are the first shout outs. Those are the first shout outs we've ever had. So thank you.
Drop out of government school.
Okay, so let's go ahead and read our Constitution.
Oh, thank you, Phil. At least you're feeling that.
Yes.
Yes, we have the women's, this is our month.
Exactly. So we're going to read number 1.
Okay.
Amendment 1, which is on page 21. I'm
La
sorry I gave you a
Constitución. You got it in Spanish and English.
I got it both, but I can only read English. So
and
I can yes, Xavier, would you mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Yay!
So basically that means...
Well, you know...
Julian Son.
I would like to repeat my weekly message, which is Julian Assange is under threat, and the case against him is a threat to the First Amendment. And if you haven't been following the story, there were extradition hearings last week, so there are 3 or 4 days, and there was some very good coverage on Twitter, and the bloggers and the people that are really paying attention to this to know how important it is. But you're not going to find it on Fox, you're not going to find it on CNN, you're not going to find it on MSNBC, you're not going to find it in the major media news channels,
where do you find it at?
Pathetic.
You have to do your own. You have to do your investigate. You have to kind of dig deep.
You have to kind of dig deep to find out what's going on with what he's basically sitting in an armored cage, and he has very limited access to his own attorneys. He's a nonviolent person, right? And so he's getting strip searched, and all his notes and stuff are being everything's being monitored.
And Trump really wants to punish him.
Yeah, well, Trump liked him during the
when he was running. Now
yes, and there are a lot of conservatives locally. I've worn my Free Assange shirt, and I've gotten some flack from some conservatives.
Really? Yeah. And they're the government get off my back people too.
They're the government get off my back unless you say something bad about our military and what we're doing in the world, unless you expose government crimes.
Yes. So listen, everyone, thank you so much. I want to thank everyone who voted yesterday. There, just in my precinct, I think we had like a 25%.
Wow.
We want 50, 60%, because if the more people vote, the more true representation we have. And then everyone's voice is heard. So don't forget, your votes is never. Even if you voted for Tom Steyer, I think there were not. He dropped out. There were few votes for him. If you voted for Tulce, if you voted for Elizabeth Warren, regardless, Amy, even if you voted for Bloomberg, every time you vote, that whatever message they're doing impacts the person who's running, because they want to get your vote. For the general election. Everyone but Trump. All he cares about is his base. All right. So tell us where you're going to be.
Thank you, Pride Support Services of Charlotte.
Like us on Facebook.
Wish y'all the best, and hopefully y'all grow and have you more. Need medical assistance? Y'all can return and come back and give us some reports how y'all are doing. All right.
Definitely. I appreciate
Jenny, we miss you.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, I got my Trump piñata. It's a Trump piñata. I have several of them for special occasions. Plus, I did order us.
This is awesome.
A Trump toilet scrubber. It's got his head that you scrub the toilet with.
Oh my God! So, this is so awesome. You gotta tell me where to get it. I just gotta make some Trump piñatas.
All right, tell us.
Did you tell us where you're going to be?
Where am I going to be this weekend? I have a women's conference Sunday night. Come on to Midwood, Midwood Cultural Center on the Plaza and
International.
I can't remember the Plaza and Central.
Yeah.
So that's Sunday.
House.
The International House. It changed the name, so it's like International House on Sunday. Saturday I'll be at a women's conference in the morning. And y'all know Mama Ruth, who she will be spending the rest of the week.
Her grandbaby.
Yes.
I don't have any plans that I can.
No theater? No theater?
Actually, I think there is a Ryan and his brother, the Stamey brothers, will be performing at ATC. I think a fundraiser. It's a duet. They're very funny, especially when they dress up. And that should be a good show. So new theater seasons are coming out. So pay attention to what's going on. Because there's some good theater happening.
Thank you, everyone. Pride Support Services of Charlotte. Like us on Facebook. And don't forget, Gay Men's Group this coming Sunday. Open group to everyone on the 15th. Thank you for your support. We are nothing without you.
All right, everyone. Goodbye.
You close it?
I'll be at home.